Today on Cruiseman's Garage, we're installing this passenger audio control onto a 2018 Honda Goldwing Tour. However, this will fit any 2018 Honda Goldwing. A link to the PDF file with the Honda installation instructions is included in the description of this video. The passenger audio control kit includes a new audio control unit, a custom bezel, and two small Phillips screws. Our installation begins by removing both side panels from the Goldwing. To do this, open both of the saddlebag doors on each side. Start on the left side and remove the first panel by pulling on it until the grommets release the pins that hold the panel in place. Take your time and do it slowly as shown. The right side panel removes in the exact same manner, and you should set both of these out of the way. It's a good idea to disconnect the negative cable on your battery. On the right side of the motorcycle, in front of the saddlebag, you'll locate the heated seat connector. You can release this connector by pressing the tab at the top and back of the connector. Here you can clearly see the tab I'm referring to. It's on the back side of the connector at the top. You just press that in to release. Next, we need to remove the seat. The seat is held in place by two 6mm Allen bolts at the front of the seat. Here we're looking at the right side of the motorcycle. Use a 6mm Allen socket or an Allen wrench to remove these bolts and washers. It's a good idea to use masking tape to protect the paint on the shelter just in front of the seat. The front of the seat is held in place by large nylon pins on each side that fit down into rubber grommets in the shelter. By pulling up firmly on both sides at the same time, you can release these nylon pins. By holding the front of the seat up with one hand, use your other hand in the back of the seat and try to pull the seat forward and up. It may take some wiggling to do this. In this case, this is the first time this seat has ever been off the bike, so it takes a little extra work. It's a little tight. And you see those pins on the front. That's why we put masking tape to protect the paint, because you don't want those pins to hit the paint as you're removing the seat. Make sure the cable is clear and lift the seat off of the bike and set it off to the side. We need to remove the right side passenger grab rail. This is held in place with two 12mm bolts. Using a socket and a ratchet, remove both of these bolts and washers. Be careful when removing. Make sure you hold the grab handle with one hand before you remove the bolts so that it doesn't fall and scratch your paint. To remove the right side saddlebag switch cover, I'm using a piece of silicone tape to protect the paint, but you could also use masking tape. A small flathead screwdriver. If you carefully pry the back of the plate out, there's a little clip in the back, and once it releases, you can then pull the secondary clip from the front and remove the plate. The 6-pin waterproof connector is located on the right side of the motorcycle as shown here. You can press down on the tab on the connector plug and release it as shown. Now, the dummy connector is attached to a small clip on the rear fender, and you can press the tab underneath that dummy connector and just simply slip it off that clip as shown. Route the wiring harness from the passenger audio control unit through an opening in the rear of the cutout on the right saddlebag as I'm doing here. It may take a while to fiddle with this to get it to fit through, but it has to go underneath the frame as I'm doing here, because you don't want the seat to crimp those wires when we put the seat back on. Now, simply connect the harness to the plug that we disconnected earlier, and then you can slip the harness connector over that clip on the rear fender. Use the two 4mm screws to secure the passenger audio control unit to the top of the saddlebag. Now you're ready to install the audio control bezel. Reinstall the right side passenger grab rail using the bolts and washers we removed earlier. At the back of the seat underneath, you'll find two nylon hooks. Those hooks will slip underneath these two pins on the grab rails. Towards the front of the seat, you'll notice a nylon tongue that will fit down into a slot toward the front of the shelter. At the very front of the seat are the two nylon pins that fit down into those two rubber grommets that we removed initially. The two rubber isolators at the very back of the seat sit on top of the flat frame rails. I use a little silicone grease on these rubber parts because it helps it slide a little bit easier when we reinstall the seat. Reinstall the seat, I'm starting by setting the back end down, and I'm just holding the front end up, and I'm getting the cable where I need it to be so I can reconnect that heater connector. Now I want to line up those pins with those nylon hooks in the back and make sure those are in place. The next thing is we're going to move the seat back as far as we can in those hooks, and you may even have to pound the seat a little bit, the little bolster, to get it to go back into place. Make sure the nylon tongue fits down into the slot on the shelter, and then push those nylon pins down into the grommets as shown. Now you need to visually check to make sure the holes line up to where the bolts go in. You may even have to push the seat back again a little bit further. Sometimes you even have to sit on the seat to get the holes to line up properly. And then replace the bolt and washer. There are 6mm Allen bolts on each side of the seat. That's what secures the seat to the frame. Don't forget to reconnect your heated seat connector. Okay, we're going to reinstall this side panel cover. They both install the same way. I want you to notice this little tab right here, because this little tab is going to slip in right here to this little slot. And that's what I'm going to start out with. I want to get that lined up first, and then we're going to put all of our little nubs here, or posts, that will go into the various grommets on the frame. You can see them. 1, 2, those are the front ones, 3, and 4 down here by the saddlebag. So let's line up that little notch. And you just have to kind of fiddle with this until you get a system down that you feel comfortable with, because this edge has to go under the seat here. So you just kind of have to play with it until you get it like that right there. Now we can slip that into that slot, and now we can begin putting these grommets in place. Sometimes you have to pull it out, kind of look at what you're doing, and then start over there. Okay, that you'll get a loud click sometimes. That's okay. And then punch it in, make sure it's in good and tight. And now that body panel is back in place. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side.